Dwayne Johnson, one of America's most beloved actors, witnessed a shocking moment at a grocery store when an impatient cashier cruelly humiliated a humble grandmother in front of her young grandson, sparking an unexpected and unforgettable turn of events. Let us know where you're watching from. If you admire the righteous characters in this story, give us a thumbs up and subscribe now. The early autumn sun cast its warm, golden rays through the window, while a gentle breeze rustled the leaves still clinging to their branches. Lisa stirred from her restless sleep, jolted fully awake by the shrill ring of her phone. It was her landlord, and she knew exactly why. For 2 months now, Lisa had been unable to pay rent, her modest income drained by the mounting cost of her medication. The landlord had been merciful, allowing her to delay payments, but that mercy seemed to be running out. Lisa's heart sank as she listened to the thinly veiled ultimatum on the other end of the line. Either she found the money soon, or she and her grandson Robert would be out on the street. Lisa put the phone down, her chest tight with a mix of anxiety and helplessness. The small apartment had been their haven, a fragile semblance of stability in their otherwise uncertain lives. But today wasn't just another day of struggling to make ends meet. Today was Robert's birthday. Despite her overwhelming financial troubles, Lisa resolved to find him a small gift, something to remind him that, even in the face of hardship, he was loved and cherished. Both Lisa and Robert had already endured the unthinkable, losing the person they loved most. Emily, Lisa's only daughter and the family's sole provider, had been their anchor. Her sudden passing 2 years ago, the result of a devastating accident, shattered their world. With Emily gone, Lisa was left to pick up the pieces, becoming both guardian and provider for her young grandson. But at her age, and with her health in decline, finding stable work was an uphill battle. The little savings Emily had left behind were long gone, spent on daily necessities and Lisa's growing medical bills. Every dollar was stretched thin, and their lives became a careful balancing act between survival and sacrifice. Special occasions like birthdays had become rare moments of bittersweet joy, overshadowed by their limited means. Yet, despite their struggles, Lisa tried to hold on to the one thing she could still give Robert, her unwavering love and the strength to keep going, even when the odds felt impossible. Today, as she thought about Robert's birthday, the ache of Emily's absence weighed heavy on her heart. Lisa knew she couldn't afford much, but she vowed to give Robert something meaningful, a small gift to remind him that, even in a life full of loss, he was never alone. Robert held tightly to Lisa's hand as they stepped into the grocery store, the automatic doors whooshing open to reveal rows of shelves stocked with colorful goods. His eyes widened as he took in the sight of the towering shelves, stacked with items that seemed both familiar and foreign. It had been so long since he had last been here, so long since life had felt normal. Ever since his mother's passing, everything had changed. Grocery trips became rare, meals simpler, and the weight of their situation unspoken yet ever present. Robert had grown used to these changes. He understood, even at his young age, that Lisa was doing her best with what little they had. He never complained, knowing how hard his grandmother worked to keep things together. But deep down, buried beneath his understanding and acceptance, there was still a quiet longing, a wish for something special, a reminder of the simpler, happier days when his mother was still here. Today, as they wandered through the aisles, Robert felt a flicker of hope. It was his birthday, and for the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to feel a little excitement. Lisa had promised him something small to mark the day, and though he didn't know what it would be, the mere thought made his heart race. As they stopped by the toy aisle, Robert's eyes lit up. He couldn't help but smile, thinking, maybe today is a little different. Maybe today is special. For a brief moment, the heavy weight of their struggles seemed to lift, replaced by the simple joy of being in this moment. With his grandmother by his side, Robert felt lucky, and for the first time in a long while, he dared to feel hopeful. As they wandered through the aisles, Robert's eyes suddenly caught sight of something familiar on a shelf, an unmistakable logo. It was a brand of sweet cakes his mother had always loved. For a moment, he froze, staring at the brightly colored package as a wave of memories rushed over him. He remembered how she used to bring home the cakes, how her face lit up as she unwrapped them, offering him a piece with a warm smile. The sight of it now felt like a gentle tug on his heart, bittersweet and full of longing. Lisa noticed Robert stop in his tracks and glanced down at him. Following his gaze, her eyes landed on the familiar package. Her breath hitched slightly as recognition dawned. "Oh," she murmured softly, her voice tinged with emotion. "That's what Emily used to love." For a moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of her absence hanging silently between them. Without hesitation, Lisa reached up and took the package from the shelf, cradling it in her hands as if it were something fragile. She turned to Robert with a small, tender smile. "I think she'd want you to have these," she said gently. "Your mom always said they made her happy. I'm sure you'll like them too." Robert looked up at his grandmother, his wide eyes shimmering with gratitude and emotion. He reached for the package, holding it as if it were a precious gift. "Thank you, Grandma," he whispered, his voice barely audible. In that quiet moment, the shared memory of someone they both loved brought them closer. The pain of loss was still there, but so too was the love that remained, a bond that could never be broken. Lisa held Robert's hand tightly as they approached the checkout counter. In her other hand, she clutched a single crumpled bill and a small handful of coins. It was all she had left, but she had carefully calculated that it would be just enough to pay for the one item, a small pack of her late daughter's favorite sweet cakes. The thought of bringing even a little joy to Robert on his birthday had made the decision easy. As they stepped forward, Lisa placed the package gently on the counter. Robert stood silently by her side, clutching the hem of her coat. His bright anticipation for moments before dimmed slightly as he noticed the expression on the cashier's face. The young employee looked at the item, then at Lisa and Robert, their eyes narrowing with thinly veiled judgment. "Just one item?" the cashier asked, their tone dripping with disdain. They let out a scoffing chuckle as they began ringing up the cakes. "That's all? Done shopping already?" The mocking words hung in the air, sharp and cutting, as if to say they didn't belong there, as if their humble purchase was somehow a source of amusement. Lisa felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment, but she kept her head held high. She carefully placed the coins and bill on the counter, her hands steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. Robert glanced up at her, his wide eyes full of confusion and sadness, but she gave his hand a reassuring squeeze. "I only needed this," Lisa said softly, her voice calm but resolute. Beneath her composure, she willed herself to stay strong, for Robert, for the memory of her daughter, and for the little dignity they had left in that moment. It was one of Dwayne Johnson's rare days off, and after a long, restful sleep, he decided to head out to grab something to eat. Stopping by a local grocery store, he wandered the aisles, selecting a few essentials, and eventually made his way to the checkout line. As he stood patiently waiting his turn, a scene began to unfold in front of him. Ahead of him, a frail-looking older woman and a young boy stood at the counter. The woman, clutching a small package of sweet cakes, seemed nervous yet determined. The cashier rang up the item, their tone flat and uninterested. "That'll be $12, the cashier said, their voice almost robotic. The woman, Lisa, fumbled to open her worn wallet. Her hands trembling slightly, she pulled out a single, crumpled bill and then began counting out coins, her fingers shaking as she carefully picked through the small handful she had. Each movement seemed labored, as though the effort of holding and sorting the coins. Her face, though calm, bore the lines of exhaustion, a testament to years of hard work and perhaps sleepless nights worrying about how to make ends meet. Dwayne's sharp eyes caught every detail, the way the boy stood quietly by her side, clutching the hem of her coat, his wide eyes filled with a mix of anticipation and worry. He also noticed the woman's trembling hands, the faint hesitance in her movements, and the slightly uneven way she stood. "She's not well," he thought. The cashier tapped their fingers impatiently on the counter, their irritation barely concealed. "Are we gonna finish this sometime today?" they muttered under their breath, loud enough for Dwayne to hear. The comment made his jaw tighten, but he stayed quiet for the moment, his eyes fixed on Lisa as she continued counting her coins, her determination unwavering despite the visible strain. The cashier's voice cut through the air, sharp and laced with disdain. "Do you even have enough money?" they sneered, their gaze narrowing as Lisa struggled to count the trembling coins in her hands. The soft clink of metal on the counter was drowned out by the cashier's cruel words, growing louder and more venomous with each passing moment. "If you don't, why are you even here? People like you shouldn't waste our time." Lisa froze for a moment, her cheeks burning with humiliation. The harsh words hung heavily in the air, audible to everyone nearby, including the few other customers who stood awkwardly silent, unsure of how to react. Robert, clutching the hem of her coat, glanced up at his grandmother with wide, confused eyes. He didn't understand the specifics of what was being said, but he could feel the weight of the judgment, the hostility aimed at someone he loved so dearly. The cashier didn't stop there. Their voice grew louder, their condescension now impossible to ignore. "This isn't a charity. You know, if people like you keep coming in here, acting like this is some sort of handout, we'll go bankrupt. What's next? Should we just start giving things away for free? You think this is some kind of shelter?" They let out a hollow laugh, their words dripping with scorn as they leaned on the counter, staring down at Lisa like she was beneath them. Lisa's hands trembled harder, the coins slipping slightly from her grasp. Her voice faltered as she tried to say something, anything, to diffuse the situation, but the words caught in her throat. Her eyes watered, not from anger, but from the sheer helplessness of the moment. And behind her, Dwayne's jaw clenched, his patience wearing thin as he watched the cruel spectacle unfold. Lisa stood frozen for a moment, her trembling hands clutching the coins she had worked so hard to gather. The cruel words of the cashier rang in her ears, louder than anything else in the bustling store. Her chest tightened with shame, and her face burned as she glanced down at Robert, whose confused, innocent eyes looked up at her, silently seeking reassurance. The cashier's face turned crimson, a mix of embarrassment and defiance flashing in their eyes. Instead of backing down, they crossed their arms and snapped. "And who do you think you are to lecture me? This is none of your business." Before Dwayne could respond, the cashier, in a sudden act of cruelty, grabbed the handful of coins Lisa had painstakingly counted and threw them to the floor. The metallic clinking of the coins scattering across the tile echoed through the store, sharp and jarring. "There," the cashier sneered, their voice dripping with contempt. "Pick it up if it means that much to you. People like you don't belong here." "Stupid," Lisa gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as her eyes darted to the coins rolling across the floor. Her face burned with humiliation, and her shoulders hunched under the weight of the public spectacle. Robert flinched, his small frame shrinking against his grandmother as he stared at the scattered money, confusion and fear clouding his young eyes. The store fell silent. Customers glanced at one another, their unease palpable, but no one stepped forward. Lisa hesitated, her trembling hands hovering as if unsure whether to bend down and retrieve the coins or simply walk away. Dwayne stood behind them, his eyes narrowing as he watched the scene unfold. His jaw tightened, and his massive frame seemed to straighten even taller. He said nothing, but the intensity in his gaze and the tension in his posture spoke volumes. He could feel his patience slipping away, anger simmering just below the surface. Yet he waited, watching carefully, ready to step in the moment Lisa needed him. The humiliation was too much to bear. Lisa's shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world had just become too heavy. With a deep, shaky breath, she made her decision. Without a word, she gathered the coins back into her worn wallet, her fingers fumbling as she turned to Robert. "Come on, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice trembling but tender. Taking his small hand in hers, she gave it a reassuring squeeze, as much for him as for herself. Robert hesitated, his bright eyes flicking between the package of sweet cakes and his grandmother. He didn't fully understand what had just happened, but he could sense her pain. Still holding her hand, he followed quietly as Lisa walked away from the counter, her head bowed. They approached the shelf where they had picked up the package. Lisa placed it back with a gentleness that belied the turmoil inside her, her hand lingering on the brightly colored wrapping for just a second longer. She swallowed hard, blinking back tears. "It's okay," she murmured. though the words were meant more for herself than for Robert. As they turned to leave, the boy glanced over his shoulder at the cakes, his small heart heavy with the understanding that this birthday would be just another day where sacrifices were made. Behind them, the store fell into an awkward silence, the air heavy with the echoes of the cruel words that had driven them away. The tension in the air was palpable, and Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, had finally reached his breaking point. He had been standing silently, watching the cruel spectacle unfold, but seeing Lisa turn away, her shoulders slumped in defeat, and the innocent confusion in Robert's eyes lit a fire inside him. With a steady stride, Dwayne stepped forward, his towering frame immediately drawing attention from the other customers and even the cashier. The room seemed to hush as he approached the counter, his expression calm but unyielding, his presence commanding respect without needing to raise his voice. "Excuse me," Dwayne said, his deep voice cutting through the silence. The cashier looked up, startled, their smug expression faltering as they recognized the man standing before them. "What do you think you're doing?" he asked, his tone firm but measured. The cashier, now visibly uneasy, stammered, I was just—" "No," Dwayne interrupted, his gaze unwavering. "You weren't just doing anything. You humiliated a woman in front of her grandson. You belittled her for no reason other than the fact that she couldn't buy more than one item. Is that how you think people deserve to be treated?" The cashier opened their mouth to respond but quickly closed it, unable to meet Dwayne's eyes. The customers standing nearby watched in stunned silence, some holding their breath, others nodding slightly as if silently agreeing with every word. Dwayne continued, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. "Let me tell you something. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect. Everyone. You don't know her story. You don't know what she's been through. And yet, you stood there and judged her, mocked her, as if you had the right. Let me make this clear. You don't." The cashier's face turned red, whether from embarrassment or shame. It was hard to tell. They mumbled something inaudible, but Dwayne wasn't done. He leaned slightly forward, lowering his voice so that it carried even more weight. "This isn't just about her. It's about you, and the kind of person you choose to be. If you can't treat people with kindness, maybe you're in the wrong line of work." Lisa turned to Dwayne, her eyes filled with tears, but also a glimmer of gratitude. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her worn coat, trying to compose herself. With a deep breath, she stepped forward and said softly, "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you stepping in." Her voice trembled, but there was sincerity in every word. She glanced down at Robert, who clung to her coat, his small face still shadowed by confusion and sadness. Guilt washed over her as she thought of what had just happened. Turning back to Dwayne, she continued, her words carrying the weight of her struggles. "Today is his birthday," she began, her voice cracking slightly. "I wanted to give him something special, something to remind him that even though life has been hard, he is still so loved. But instead, I've only made him sad." Lisa's shoulders slumped as she let out a heavy sigh. "I've tried so hard to be strong for him, to give him a little bit of happiness. But some days it just feels impossible. Seeing him look at me like this, so disappointed, I feel like I've failed him as a grandmother." She swallowed hard, her emotions threatening to overwhelm her again. But then, looking at Dwayne, she found a small spark of strength. "You stepped in just now. It reminded me that there are still kind people in the world. That means more to me than you'll ever know." Her voice softened, her expression full of gratitude as she said, "Thank you, truly, for showing us kindness when we needed it most." Dwayne looked at Lisa, her frail figure trembling slightly, and at Robert, whose eyes still glistened with unspoken sadness. He could feel the weight of their struggles in the air, the kind of heaviness that only came from enduring too much pain for too long. After a brief pause, his deep, steady voice broke the silence. "Then let me do something for the boy," he said gently, his gaze soft yet resolute. "Today, I'll cover your shopping. Please, choose whatever you want." Lisa's eyes widened, her lips parting as if to protest, but no words came out. For a moment, she simply stared at him, overwhelmed by his kindness. "I couldn't possibly," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. But Dwayne raised a hand, cutting her off with a warm smile. "You can," he said firmly but kindly, "and you will. Today isn't about what you can't do. It's about giving Robert a moment to smile. That's the least I can do for you both." Lisa's throat tightened as tears welled up in her eyes again. But this time, they weren't from sadness. She looked down at Robert, who stared up at Dwayne in awe, his small hand gripping her coat. "Are you serious?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling. "Completely," Dwayne replied, his smile growing. He crouched down slightly so he could meet Robert's gaze. "Hey, buddy, today is your day. Go ahead and pick out something you like. Okay, anything you want." Robert's wide eyes darted between Dwayne and his grandmother, searching for confirmation, when Lisa gave him a small nod, tears still brimming in her eyes. His face lit up with a hesitant but genuine smile. "Really?" he asked, his voice small but filled with a spark of hope. Dwayne chuckled softly. "Really? Let's make this birthday one to remember." Lisa wiped her eyes with the edge of her sleeve, her heart swelling with gratitude. She couldn't remember the last time someone had extended such kindness to her and Robert. It felt surreal, like a glimmer of light breaking through the heavy clouds that had hung over them for so long. Guided by Dwayne's encouraging words, Robert slowly let go of his grandmother's coat and walked back toward the shelves. He paused in front of a toy section, his eyes lighting up as he spotted a small, colorful building set. He glanced back at Lisa, who gave him a reassuring nod. "That one?" Dwayne asked, stepping up beside him. When Robert nodded shyly, Dwayne smiled. "Good choice. Buddy, anything else? How about some cake for the birthday boy?" Robert's eyes lit up even more at the mention of cake, and for the first time that day, he beamed with unrestrained joy. Lisa stood a few steps back, her hands clasped tightly in front of her as she watched the scene unfold. Her heart was heavy with emotion, but it also felt lighter than it had in years. As they walked toward the checkout counter together, the items carefully selected, Lisa turned to Dwayne, her voice choked with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. Dwayne shook his head with a gentle smile. "No need to thank me," he replied. "Just promise me you'll celebrate this little guy today. That's all that matters." The Rock's act of kindness that day was far more than just a gesture. It became a defining moment in young Robert's life, a memory etched deeply in his heart. For a boy who had faced so much loss and hardship at such a young age, the compassion and generosity he experienced left a lasting impression. It wasn't just the items Dwayne bought for him that mattered. It was the way he made Robert feel seen, valued, and cared for. In the days that followed, Dwayne couldn't shake the thought of Robert and Lisa. Their resilience and quiet dignity had struck a chord with him. He reached out to a trusted financial advisor and set up a trust fund in Robert's name, ensuring that the boy would have access to financial support as he grew. The fund would help cover educational expenses, basic needs, and even opportunities for personal growth, a safety net to give him the foundation he deserved. When Lisa received the news, she was overwhelmed with gratitude, tears streaming down her face as she tried to process the incredible gesture. She had spent years worrying about how she would provide for Robert, especially as her own health continued to decline. Now, for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of relief and hope. Dwayne personally called Lisa to explain his decision. "I see something special in Robert," he told her. "He's a bright, kind-hearted kid with so much potential. I want to make sure he has every opportunity to thrive. This isn't charity, this is me believing in his future." Lisa's voice trembled as she responded. "You've changed our lives, Mr. Johnson. I don't know how we can ever thank you." "You don't need to thank me," Dwayne replied warmly. "Just promise me one thing. Remind Robert every day how special he is. Tell him he can do anything he sets his mind to. That's all I ask." From that moment on, Robert carried the memory of Dwayne's kindness with him. It became a source of strength and inspiration, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there were people who cared and believed in him. The heartfelt moment between Dwayne Johnson, Lisa, and Robert didn't go unnoticed. Among the onlookers at the grocery store, several had instinctively reached for their phones, capturing the entire interaction on video. From the cashier's cruel remarks to Dwayne stepping in and transforming the situation with his kindness. Every detail was recorded and soon found its way onto social media. The video, initially shared by a customer who had been moved to tears, quickly gained traction. Within hours, it began circulating widely, earning millions of views and an outpouring of comments from people across the globe. The clip showed Dwayne crouching down to speak to Robert, encouraging him to choose something for his birthday, and ended with the thunderous applause of the customers who witnessed his act of generosity. The simplicity and sincerity of the moment struck a chord with viewers. It wasn't about Dwayne's celebrity status, but about his humanity. People praised not only his actions, but also the reminder that kindness and compassion could make a profound difference in someone's life. Hashtags like #KindnessInAction, #TheRockInspires, and #SmallActsBigImpact began trending, and the video became a symbol of hope in a world often filled with negativity. News outlets picked up the story, labeling it as a defining example of modern-day compassion. Interviews with customers who had been present highlighted the ripple effect of Dwayne's actions. Many shared how witnessing the moment had inspired them to reflect on their own behavior and look for ways to extend kindness in their daily lives. Lisa and Robert were contacted for follow-ups, their story serving as a testament to how small acts of generosity could change lives. For Lisa, it was a chance to share her gratitude. What Mr. Johnson did that day didn't just help us in the moment, she said during an interview. It restored my faith in people. It reminded me that even when life feels impossibly hard, there's still goodness in the world. For Robert, the video became a cherished memory. Though he was too young to fully understand the magnitude of what had happened, he often watched the clip with wide eyes, a shy smile breaking across his face every time he heard Dwayne's words, "Let's make this birthday one to remember." The story continued to inspire people long after the initial video went viral. Schools used it as an example during lessons on kindness. Workplaces shared it during team meetings, and families discussed it over dinner tables. It became more than just a feel-good moment. It was a call to action, a reminder that compassion was a choice available to everyone. As for Dwayne, he remained humble about the attention the video garnered. When asked about it during an interview, he simply said, "I just did what felt right." The real heroes are people like Lisa, who keep going no matter how tough life gets. If this story inspires more people to help each other, then that's the best outcome I could hope for. Years later, the once shy and quiet Robert had grown into a confident and determined young man. With the support and kindness of Dwayne Johnson, he had overcome the many challenges life had thrown his way. The trust fund Dwayne set up for Robert provided the financial stability needed for his education, while the memory of Dwayne's unwavering belief in him became a constant source of inspiration. Robert worked hard through school, excelling in his studies and showing a natural aptitude for business and innovation. He remembered Dwayne's words from that fateful day in the grocery store. "You can do anything you set your mind to." Those words echoed in his mind during late nights of studying, moments of self-doubt, and when the obstacles felt insurmountable. They became his mantra, a guiding light in his journey. By the time Robert turned 22, he had not only graduated at the top of his class, but also started his own tech company focused on developing affordable tools for education. His goal was simple: to create opportunities for kids who faced challenges like he had. With his sharp mind and compassionate heart, his company quickly gained recognition, earning him accolades as one of the youngest and most promising entrepreneurs in the country. The media often asked Robert about his success and what motivated him. He never hesitated to share the story of Dwayne Johnson's life-changing kindness. "When I was a kid, my grandmother and I struggled to make ends meet. Then one day, someone saw us, really saw us, and reminded us that we mattered. That someone was Dwayne Johnson. He not only helped us that day, but also invested in my future. Without his belief in me, I wouldn't be here today." Dwayne, who had followed Robert's journey from afar, couldn't have been prouder. When Robert launched his company, Dwayne attended the opening ceremony as a surprise guest. Standing before the audience, he spoke about Robert's resilience and determination. What Robert has achieved isn't just a testament to his hard work and intelligence, Dwayne said. It's proof that a little kindness can go a long way. I'm honored to have played a small part in his journey. But make no mistake, this success is all his. For Robert, Dwayne's presence at the event was a full-circle moment. He hugged the man who had believed in him when few others had and said, "You didn't just change my life that day. You changed the way I see the world. I hope I can do the same for others." Robert's story became a beacon of hope for countless others, a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness could create ripples that change lives. Through his success, he carried forward the legacy of compassion, proving that with a little help and a lot of determination, even the toughest challenges could be overcome. Robert's journey to success was more than just a personal triumph. It was a testament to the transformative power of kindness. Having experienced firsthand how one act of generosity from Dwayne Johnson had changed the course of his life, Robert made it his mission to pay it forward. As his company grew, so did his vision. A vision to create opportunities for others who faced the same challenges he had once endured. By his late 20s, Robert had expanded his tech company into a global enterprise. Yet, despite his achievements, he never lost sight of his roots or the moments that shaped him. He often reflected on that fateful day in the grocery store when Dwayne had not only stood up for him and his grandmother, but had also invested in his future. The gratitude he felt for that act of compassion became the driving force behind his philanthropic efforts. Robert established the Beacon of Hope Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting underprivileged children and families. The foundation focused on three core areas: providing scholarships for education, funding community programs, and offering emergency assistance to those in need. Each initiative was designed to give people the same sense of hope and possibility that Robert had felt when Dwayne stepped into his life. One of the foundation's flagship programs was the Dream Big Scholarship, which provided full tuition and mentorship opportunities to students from low-income families. Robert took a personal interest in the selection process, often reading through the applications himself. He found inspiration in their stories, many of which mirrored his own struggles growing up. During one scholarship award ceremony, Robert stood before a group of bright, eager students and shared his story. "When I was your age," he said, "I thought the obstacles in front of me were too big to overcome, but someone believed in me, and that made all the difference. Today, I want you to know that I believe in you. Your dreams are worth pursuing, no matter how impossible they might seem right now." The audience erupted in applause. Many of the students moved to tears. For Robert, seeing the joy and hope in their faces was a reminder of why he had chosen this path. He often said that the foundation's work was the most rewarding part of his life, even more so than the success of his business. But Robert didn't stop at scholarships. He also launched the Lift Up Communities initiative, which partnered with local organizations to fund after-school programs, provide technology resources for underserved schools, and build safe spaces for children to learn and play. The initiative gained widespread recognition for its impact, with community leaders praising Robert's dedication and hands-on approach. One day, while visiting a newly renovated community center funded by his foundation, Robert met a young boy named Ethan. Ethan's family had been struggling to make ends meet, and the center had become a lifeline for them. As Robert spoke with Ethan, he saw a spark in the boy's eyes that reminded him of himself at that age. Ethan shared his dreams of becoming an engineer, and Robert listened intently, offering words of encouragement. Before leaving, Robert handed Ethan a small card with the foundation's contact information. "If you ever need help or guidance," he said, "don't hesitate to reach out. We're here for you." That interaction stayed with Robert, fueling his determination to continue expanding the foundation's reach. In addition to his philanthropic work, Robert remained deeply connected to Dwayne. Though their paths had diverged over the years, the bond they had formed never wavered. Robert often sought Dwayne's advice on how to navigate the challenges of balancing business success with meaningful impact. Dwayne, in turn, expressed his pride in the man Robert had become. "You're doing something incredible," Dwayne told him during one of their conversations. "You took what could have been a moment of despair and turned it into a lifelong mission. That's the true definition of success." To honor Dwayne's influence in his life, Robert launched the Legacy of Kindness campaign under the foundation's banner. The campaign aimed to inspire others to practice compassion and generosity in their daily lives. It featured a series of public service announcements and social media challenges, encouraging people to share their own stories of kindness. The response was overwhelming, with thousands participating and sharing how small acts of goodwill had made a difference in their lives. One of the most poignant moments of the campaign came when Robert invited Dwayne to be a guest speaker at the foundation's annual gala. During his speech, Dwayne shared his perspective on the ripple effects of kindness. "When I met Robert and his grandmother all those years ago," he said, "I didn't know the impact that moment would have. I just did what felt right. Seeing how far Robert has come, and how many lives he's touched, is proof that no act of kindness is ever too small." The room erupted in applause, and Robert couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. As he stood beside Dwayne on the stage, he reflected on how their lives had intertwined in such a meaningful way. It was a reminder that even the simplest gestures could create ripples that span generations. Robert's work continued to expand, touching countless lives around the world. Under his leadership, the Beacon of Hope Foundation grew into one of the most influential charitable organizations of its kind. Yet, despite his success, Robert remained humble, often crediting Dwayne and his grandmother for shaping the person he had become. "They taught me that strength isn't just about overcoming obstacles," Robert often said. "It's about lifting others up along the way. That's the legacy I want to leave behind." Through his tireless efforts, Robert ensured that the kindness he received as a child became a beacon for others, lighting the way for those who needed it most. And as his story continued to inspire, he proved time and again that compassion, paired with determination, could truly change the world. Robert's unwavering commitment to supporting underprivileged youth through the Beacon of Hope Foundation sparked transformative changes in the lives of countless teens. His scholarships, mentorship programs, and community initiatives became a lifeline for many, giving them the tools and confidence to pursue their dreams. Over the years, the foundation's alumni began making headlines, their stories of perseverance and success showcasing the profound impact of Robert's generosity. One such story was that of Elena Ramirez, a shy teenager from a small town who always dreamed of becoming a doctor. Growing up in a family that struggled to make ends meet, Elena never thought she'd have the chance to attend college, let alone medical school. When she was awarded the Dream Big scholarship, everything changed. With financial worries eased, Elena poured her energy into her studies, excelling in biology and chemistry. The mentorship program connected her with Dr. Maria Torres, a renowned physician who guided Elena through the rigorous process of applying to medical schools. Years later, Elena graduated with honors from one of the country's top medical schools. Today, she works as a pediatric surgeon, dedicating her career to helping children in underserved communities. In interviews, Elena often credits the Beacon of Hope Foundation for changing her life. "Without their support," she said, "I wouldn't be where I am today. Robert believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Another inspiring example was Marcus Lee, a tech-savvy teen who grew up in a rough neighborhood where opportunities were scarce. Marcus had a passion for coding but lacked access to the resources needed to hone his skills. When his high school received a grant from Robert's Lift Up Communities initiative, Marcus's world opened up. The funding provided the school with state-of-the-art computers and a dedicated coding program. Marcus quickly stood out, impressing his teachers and peers with his innovative projects. With the foundation's support, Marcus attended coding competitions and earned a full scholarship to a prestigious tech university. By the time he was 23, he had launched his own startup focused on cybersecurity, creating affordable solutions for small businesses. His company gained national recognition, and Marcus became a vocal advocate for increasing access to STEM education in underserved areas. Robert's belief in providing opportunities changed everything for me, Marcus shared during a keynote speech. "I'm determined to pay it forward." Then there was Amara Johnson, a young woman who grew up in foster care and often felt invisible to the world. Amara loved to write, finding solace in poetry and storytelling, but her circumstances made her dream of becoming an author seem unreachable. When she received a Beacon of Hope scholarship, it wasn't just the financial support that changed her life. It was the mentorship and encouragement she received along the way. Robert himself took an interest in her journey, often sending her personalized messages of encouragement. Amara went on to earn a degree in English literature and published her first book, a memoir about her experiences in foster care, which became a bestseller. Her work shined a light on the resilience of foster youth and inspired systemic changes in how foster care programs operated. In an interview, Amara said, "Robert's kindness reminded me that I wasn't invisible. His support gave me the courage to share my story and help others see the strength within themselves." The foundation's impact extended beyond individual achievements. It fostered a network of alumni who supported one another, creating a ripple effect of kindness and success. Among these alumni was Tariq Al-Masri, who, after graduating with a degree in environmental engineering, founded a nonprofit dedicated to sustainable water solutions in rural areas. His innovative projects provided clean drinking water to thousands of families, earning him international recognition. During a foundation gala, Tariq spoke passionately about the importance of giving back. "I come from a place where clean water was a luxury," he said. "The Beacon of Hope Foundation didn't just give me an education, it gave me a purpose. Now, I'm working to ensure that others have access to one of life's most basic needs." The gala became an annual celebration of these achievements, with Robert often addressing the audience to remind them of the foundation's core mission. "These incredible young people," he said at one event, "are living proof that a little support can go a long way. They've turned their challenges into strengths and are now changing the world in ways I never could have imagined." Among the audience was Sarangwin, a high school senior who had just been awarded a scholarship. Watching the alumni share their stories, she felt a newfound sense of hope. "I used to think my dreams were too big for someone like me," she said, "but seeing what they've achieved makes me believe I can do it too." Over the years, Robert's foundation expanded its reach, funding schools, creating mentorship programs, and supporting innovative projects across the globe. Each success story became a testament to the power of believing in people and investing in their potential. But for Robert, it wasn't just about the accomplishments. It was about the lives changed and the hope restored. One of his proudest moments came when Elena, Marcus, Amara, and Tariq came together to launch their own initiative, the Ripple Effect Fund. Inspired by Robert's work, they pooled their resources to create a grant program for young people with big ideas but limited means. At the launch event, they invited Robert as their guest of honor, presenting him with an award for his vision and compassion. "This isn't just my success," Robert said as he accepted the award. "It's ours. It's proof that when we lift each other up, we create a chain reaction of good that stretches far beyond what any of us could achieve alone." The Ripple Effect Fund quickly gained momentum, adding another layer to Robert's legacy. Through the efforts of the foundation and its alumni, countless young people continued to break barriers and achieve their dreams, each success story inspiring the next. As Robert reflected on the foundation's journey, he often thought back to the moment that had changed his own life. The day Dwayne Johnson stood up for him and his grandmother at the grocery store. That single act of kindness had created a ripple effect that spanned generations, proving that compassion, when paired with action, could truly change the world. Kindness, often seen as a simple gesture, has the power to transform lives and inspire generations. One act of compassion can ripple outward, creating a chain of goodness that touches countless people. The story of Robert and the Beacon of Hope Foundation stands as a testament to how kindness, paired with action, can change trajectories. In every corner of the world, small acts of kindness can spark immense change. For example, Maya Patel, a single mother, was struggling when a stranger helped her carry groceries and paid for a few items she couldn't afford. That small gesture reignited her faith in humanity. Years later, as a successful bakery owner, Maya started a Pay It Forward initiative, offering free meals to families in need. This ripple effect began with one compassionate moment. Robert's journey mirrors this principle. As a child, Dwayne Johnson's kindness lifted him from hardship and inspired him to help others. That single moment, when Dwayne stepped forward and offered support, sparked a transformation in Robert's life. leading to the creation of the Beacon of Hope Foundation. The foundation's impact grew exponentially. Elena Ramirez, a scholarship recipient, became a pediatric surgeon helping underserved communities. Marcus Lee, who received access to coding resources through the foundation, launched a successful tech startup and now provides mentorship to young programmers. Amara Johnson, once a foster child, became a best-selling author and an advocate for systemic reforms in foster care. These individuals carried forward the values of generosity and compassion, proving the far-reaching effects of kindness. Tariq Al-Masri, another alumni, grew up in a rural village with limited access to clean drinking water. After receiving a scholarship from the foundation, Tariq pursued a degree in environmental engineering and founded a nonprofit dedicated to creating sustainable water systems. His work transformed the lives of thousands, providing families with safe drinking water and enabling children to attend school instead of spending hours fetching water. At a gala, Tariq reflected, "The Beacon of Hope didn't just give me an education, it gave me purpose. Kindness transcends barriers." Robert's foundation funded projects in both rural and urban areas, demonstrating that small actions, a word of encouragement, a helping hand, can make a significant difference. Scientific studies have shown that acts of compassion promote connection, reduce stress, and provide a sense of purpose for both the giver and the receiver. For Robert, Dwayne's kindness didn't just provide financial support, it restored his belief in himself, becoming the cornerstone of his mission to uplift others. The foundation's alumni amplified its impact through their own efforts. Elena, Marcus, Amara, and Tariq became ambassadors for a new program Robert launched called Generations of Kindness. This initiative empowered alumni to give back to their communities by establishing mentorship programs, funding local projects, and inspiring others to take action. The ambassadors traveled across the country, visiting schools, community centers, and conferences. During one visit to an inner-city school, Marcus shared a poignant moment with a student who reminded him of his younger self. "I was once where you are," he told the boy. "Someone believed in me, and now it's my turn to believe in you." These ambassadors weren't just telling stories, they were creating opportunities. At every stop, they partnered with local organizations to address the unique needs of each community. Whether it was funding new library resources, providing technology for classrooms, or setting up scholarship funds, their efforts left a tangible impact that rippled outward. Meanwhile, Robert continued to lead by example, often visiting communities to engage directly with those the foundation supported. One of his most memorable visits was to a rural farming village that had received grants for sustainable irrigation systems. As he walked through the fields alongside the farmers, he listened to their stories of how the support had transformed their lives. One farmer, an elderly man with weathered hands, grasped Robert's hand tightly and said, "You didn't just bring us water, you brought us hope." Moments like these reaffirmed the foundation's mission and reminded Robert why he had started it in the first place. The psychological and emotional benefits of kindness are undeniable. Acts of compassion release oxytocin, often referred to as the love hormone, which fosters connection and reduces stress. For Robert, the impact of Dwayne's kindness extended far beyond the financial. It restored his belief in the good that could exist in the world and instilled in him a desire to create that goodness for others. That belief became the cornerstone of the Beacon of Hope Foundation, a force for change that has transformed thousands of lives. Inspired by these successes, Robert expanded the foundation's reach globally, funding innovative projects and forming partnerships with like-minded organizations. The Ripple Effect Fund, launched in collaboration with the foundation's alumni, became a key initiative. It provided grants to young innovators with big ideas but limited resources. During its first year, the fund supported over 200 projects, ranging from clean energy solutions to mental health programs for underserved youth. As the Beacon of Hope Foundation grew, so did its influence. Stories of its impact spread worldwide, inspiring other philanthropists, community leaders, and everyday individuals to step up and make a difference. At a foundation gala, Robert shared his vision for the future. "This isn't just about helping one person at a time," he said. It's about creating a culture of kindness, where everyone sees the value in lifting each other up. When we choose compassion, we create ripples that can change the world. As Robert often said, kindness isn't just a virtue, it's a force for change. The Beacon of Hope Foundation continues to prove that even small acts can rewrite someone's story, turning despair into hope and inspiring generations to build a better world. Love this content? Like the video and subscribe for more amazing updates. Share your thoughts below. Your support means to us.